Hello there. How do you scale an ad campaign so it's hitting 5 figures, 6 figures, or even 7 figures of profit? Here is 6 advanced techniques and exactly what to do. The first really important thing is on your return on ad spend number. So that's the return on ad spend you're shooting for. So let's say for every $100 on Facebook ads you spend, if you're aiming for $200 worth of purchases, that means your target is a 2 times return on ad spend. You always want to have a really specific target. And as you scale, after you're doing some tests, your return on ad spend is generally going to go down. And there's a couple reasons for that. So let's say you have an audience size of 1 million. If you're just spending, $100 a day or things like that, it really has its pick to find the very, very best people for that. But instead, if you're spending $10,000 a day, it's really showing it to a much larger percent of that audience. And instead of showing it to less than 1% of the audience, you may be hitting like 10%, 15%, 20% of that audience. And another big part is any ad campaign, you should be showing things to people who visit the website and people who have interacted with you on Facebook or Instagram. That's like warm traffic. And when you're doing just huge scale, a huge part of that is people who've never heard of your brand, completely cold audiences. So that also is going to drop your return on ad spend. Generally, you don't want to spend an insane amount of money day one. Usually I'm testing with maybe $100 a day, $200 a day, trying to find some ads, some creative, some angles that work really well. So I'm only risking like a couple $1,000s. I actually spend my own money promoting other people's product or helping them generate profits. And then once you start to get stuff dialed in, you can actually start to scale that. But you want some wiggle room. If the target is 3 times return on ad spend and you're doing $100 a day and you're at 3.1, you don't have a lot of wiggle room. Like you'll start to spend more and the return on ad spend will probably drop and then you can't scale anymore. Whereas if you're at 3 times return on ad spend and the target is 2 times return on ad spend, that is a lot of wiggle room. There's a lot of potential for scaling that ad campaign. Second is ad testing. So you definitely want to do that initially and find some ads, some audiences that are working really well before you scale. But you constantly want to be testing new ads, new videos, new photos. It can even be small tweaks, small changes. It can be a different text at the top of the video or things like that. And really optimizing, you should always be testing, split testing, like the landing page, the retargeting, the email sequence, all of that. But it doesn't stop when you're starting to scale. It's not like you just take what's working and just increase the spend. You should still be testing out new things. You should be finding new audiences when you scale and testing both existing creative and new creative with those new audiences. So, if you have ads that are doing well, things you're testing are unproven, so it's unclear how profitable they will be. But typically I'm spending at least 10% testing new things, and if performance is doing a lot worse, that can be a lot higher. So over time, ads kind of fatigue, they go down in performance. So I'm always looking for new ads, new creative that are doing really well, and it is exceedingly rare to have like 1 or 2 ads that drive all of your sales. Usually you need 5, 6, 10, 20, 30 big winners, and that will get you to the 6 figures, 7 figures of profit. So you definitely want a number of large audiences when you're trying to scale. That is incredibly important. Usually my audience size is between like 250,000 people to 1 million, 10 million, sometimes even 200 million. I generally like, when I'm doing my initial testing, doing it with some of the big audiences. So if it's doing really well, I can just incrementally increase the amount of money I'm spending, especially if with the test it's kind of optimized for purchases. You don't want to ramp up the spending too quickly. I generally do 20% at a time, but if it is doing really well, I'll sometimes do 20% like 3 times a day, which can boost the budget pretty quickly. So you do want to continue to test different audiences and definitely have unique ads, headline creative, maybe even landing pages, checkouts based off the person, whether you're targeting based off their interests, their profession, their age, gender, things like that. You want very specific messaging so that person really feels like you're speaking directly to them, directly to their problems. So lookalikes are a really valuable and important audience, and I almost always use those with my scaling campaigns. And what lookalikes are, it takes the people who have made a purchase and it tries to find people who are similar to them. And like a 1% lookalike is trying to find the 1% of people who are the most similar to people who bought. 2% is the 2% most similar. So I often do 1%, 2%, 5%, and 10%. And test those 4. I also use a tool called Magic X, and I'm able to create lookalikes for buyers who made really large purchases or who bought really frequently. So I'm usually testing those 6 with all my ad campaigns. Retargeting ads are always incredibly important, but they're especially important at scale, because at scale, you're spending a ton of money to get in front of people for the first time, reaching people who've never heard of your brand. But people are a lot less likely to buy from you the first time they see your brand, which means it costs more to get a sale from those people. But usually it becomes profitable when you take the people who clicked on the ad or watched a certain percent of the video and continue to show them different ads and content and things like that. So here's a couple of retargeting audiences that I think are really powerful. The first is people who've watched a certain amount of your videos. So if you have a video ad, people who watch 50%, 75%, 95% of your ads or specific videos. And really this depends on how long that video is. If it's a long ad, 4 minutes, you can do 50%. If it's a short ad, 30 seconds, you can do 95%. Generally, I want people to have watched at least 25, 30 seconds, because that really shows that they're kind of interested in your ad, in your brand, things like that. So I'll add those people to a retargeting audience. Also people who've just liked your page or have interacted with your Facebook page, Instagram page. And then on your website, this is really important, people who've hit certain strategic pages. So I'll often do the home page and a different ad, different audience for the checkout page. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different depending on the product and the e-com store. And then people who've actually initiated the checkout and started the checkout. And for these people, I really want to think about what kept them from completing their purchase. What was it? Sometimes it's just that people are busy, you show them one more ad, and they finish checking out. But with other people, there's some objection or something they're confused about or nervous about, or just wondering like, how's this worked for other people? So I find like really strategic testimonials and just actually making a list of each objection, like a final thing people think about before the sale, and then an ad that goes specifically with that. Put that into that retargeting audience and you can push a lot more people over the edge. Also, post-purchase retargeting is really powerful, getting the CEO or someone high up to thank them for their purchase and just welcome them to the family. This is really good with building community and positive feelings about your brand and shares, but I found it's often actually profitable as well. Like we had one, it wasn't even linking back to the page, it was just a thank you video, but people actually saw the ad, searched for the company, and then made a purchase, and it was like 5 times return on ad spend. So I always recommend post-purchase ads for any campaign. Reviews and testimonials are really important for any ad campaign. And when you're doing your initial reviews and tests, you should be definitely responding to people's comments, but also pulling out some of the best comments that people leave. Sometimes you can even reach out to them and ask if you can use their picture and name and a quote, or even if they'll do a video testimonial. Or you can also just pull out little quotes, and if you don't include any name or photo or picture, you can use just little quotes in future ads as well. And when you're running your ad campaign, you definitely want to use existing posts. So if you have an ad that's doing really well, you're launching a new campaign. When you launch your new campaign, do you use existing posts? And what that will allow you to do is keep all the existing likes, shares, comments, all of that. So when people see your ad, they can scroll through and, we've had thousands of comments on a post, and you can just see all the good things people are saying about your brand. Also, just including them on the web page, I recommend, where anyone can leave a review. So maybe it's not all 5 stars, it doesn't look curated. That can be really powerful. Just building social proof. You can even highlight certain testimonials or comments or things like that on the web page or anywhere else as a part of an ad. Building out that library is going to pay dividends. Just make sure if you're including someone's name, photo, or a video, you actually have permission to use it, because you don't want them to come back angry or try to sue you or anything like that. Every single ad campaign is going to deal with costs going up at some point, either with one of their top performing ads or the full ad campaign. And there's a number of strategies that you can use to combat that and make it have less impact on your bottom line. So I made a video specifically about that. So click the link above, because you definitely want to see these strategies if you are thinking about running Facebook ads. So I'll see you right up there.